As the sun sets, the coffin lids rise, and the creatures of the night awake. We greet you. This is the Morning Show.
Here at the Morning Show, we strive to bring you the latest news, music, product, and entertainment reviews, travel, cuisine, and interviews with the people you loathe the most. But first, to see what the night shall bring, we go to our local lunatic. What's the name of the local lunatic?
You can call me Mars.
Mars. Okay. Do you want me to do that all over, or are you just going to edit it all together?
No, just say Mars.
Okay. But first, to see what the night shall bring, we go to our local lunatic, Mars. So, what's the foreshadowing forecast?
The lunar phase for tonight, Friday the 15th of August, is a waning givens. The moon is in the zodiac sign of Aries. Yes, and I know Aries well, for Aries and Mars are at times one and the same god as I. And I tell you, I'm a horny little ram. Yes.
I'm also an Aries.
You're both rams, and here I am, all bull.
Yes. I've known for a long time that you've been full of bull.
I am, you can't see this, but I am sticking my tongue out at you.
Oh. Well, we shall go to the morning news.
Britain has a subculture of 1,500 vampires, says university lecturer.
Morgan,
15,000.
What did I say, 1,500?
Yeah, you said 100,000.
All right. Britain has a subculture of 15,000 vampires, says university lecturer. A psychology lecturer at a British university claims the UK has a population of some 15,000 vampires and is carrying out an academic study of their lives. Dr. Emma Williams, a senior lecturer at Glendower University in Wrexham, wants to discover more about Britain's vampire subculture, following the surge in popularity of films and TV shows about vampires. The academic says vampires are not a myth, but live and breathe a set of laws and ethics while meeting regularly all over the world, including the UK. He is carrying out what is believed to be the first online academic survey in the UK of people who say they are vampires, aimed at gaining a better understanding of vampirism. Dr. Williams said that while plenty of work has been done on the phenomenon of vampirism before, it has never really been approached from an academic perspective. We are talking about a group of individuals who believe they have a psychological need to consume blood, Dr. Williams says. Some books say there are between 10,000 and 15,000 people in the UK
Hello?
In the UK.
Did I cut out or did she?
She did.
Okay.
Occasionally she does, and then she vanishes, and she'll be back in like 2 minutes. It happens occasionally. But what happens is she ends up logging off and then logging back in.
I'm sorry, am I back?
Yes, you are. So, 15,000 people in the UK.
Okay. And 15,000 people in the UK who call themselves vampires, with another 30,000 being donors. So we're trying to reach as many of these people as possible so we can try and understand them better. I'm trying to find out about those people who live as vampires, not because they read it in literature and they're role players, but who genuinely think they're vampires and genuinely live that lifestyle, he said. Internet myths and legends of vampirism has been boosted by films and TV shows.
It sounded like you said internet. Interest.
Oh, I did say internet. I'm sorry. Interest in myths and legends of vampirism has been boosted by films and TV shows, including Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and the Twilight series. Ugh. This is a subculture that exists in every country, especially in the West, said Dr. Williams. They are a group of people who drink blood and drain energy from people, but their well-established set of laws means they know who it can be taken from. Sanguine vampires. Oh, I just lost my place.
Sanguine
Where'd it go?
vampires.
Okay. There we go. Sanguine vampires take blood and have a donor. They can only cut from certain parts of the body and are not allowed to take too much. Psychic vampires have a different ability to gain energy, but they are the ones who, when they come into a room, feed off the other people, leaving them feeling drained. It is fascinating and all very real, which is why I wanted to conduct the study. Dr. Williams drafted a questionnaire to gather more information for his research and hopes genuine vampires will support his efforts. There have been many sociological and journalistic interviews, but nothing really on the psychology of the group, he said. I'm asking about how they form communities, what levels of happiness and self-esteem, what their levels of happiness and self-esteem are, and what their religious beliefs. Most would associate them with Christianity and are trying to create a psychological understanding of this subculture. Dr. Williams added, I don't want to label them as mad, bad, or dangerous, only interested in Gothic culture and graveyards. They're just a group of people we need to know more about. Dr. Williams admits access to the vampire community is difficult as they are so private, but is confident his research will attract their attention. His interest in vampires began more than a decade ago after reading an article examining social and religious beliefs on the subculture of America and Australia. Together with Dr. Janet Goodall, a research fellow at the Institute of Education, University of Warwick, he wrote a study into vampires and the legend of Nosferatu. The paper explored how modern culture and vampire imagery has glamorized the myth and placed the subject back under the spotlight. He added, the psychology of vampires is so interesting, and I genuinely don't believe it is linked to mental illness or madness. Some sleep in coffins, but the kind of literature written on them is usually through interviews and case studies, and they are usually the weirdest and goriest people they can get to try and sell it, rather than those who do this for simple and less sensationalist reasons. It's a belief in anything. We all have different belief systems, and for many people, vampirism is a genuine way of life.
Would you like
Jack,
to
did you want to comment on that before I do?
I was going to have you comment first.
Well, I mean, and I know Morgan knows this about me. I'm weird. I'm going into anthropology, and I've always been very interested and fascinated in the way society as a whole views these different subcultures. I mean, and when you study, and this is something different, I think, because a lot of people, I've met a couple people who would classify themselves as, part members of the vampire subculture, and they're not even, it's interesting because they're not even members of the Gothic subculture, and that's what's really interesting is people tend to think they're one and the same, and they're not. One of the things, though, I mean, it's and see that's where the kicker comes in, is a lot of people assume, oh, well, they're goths and they're vampires, or they're vampires and they're goths, and a lot of times, like the article was saying, it's a sensationalist thing. I remember as a child watching, I was homesick one day, and there was some talk show with these people who thought they were vampires, and of course they were the out there people, and of course they didn't really, they were people who were obviously there for sensationalism. And I mean, as far as this goes, I don't I've met a few of them, you know, however they choose to view or live their lives. I mean, from a scientific standpoint, it makes sense that you would sometimes crave blood because we are omnivorous, and you know, when you eat red meat and you smell it, you're smelling blood, and the need for iron makes sense. So, I mean, it's a place that I don't like. I have opinions on it, but I don't want to alienate people. So I think it would definitely be something that I would kind of want to see where this paper comes from and kind of see if the people I know and how this larger study comes out. Because remember, I'm in the United States. This is a UK study, so I'm kind of interested to see it. But in the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I am a little worried they might try to sensationalize it just for the sake of getting it out there, and I'm kind of hoping they don't. So.
Well, I've mentioned this once or twice on this show, and that is that I myself am a vampire. I'm mostly an empathic vampire. I mostly feed off of others' emotions, which is it's a subtype of the psychic vampires. That being said, I am a sanguine as well. Not very often. I've only fed from 4 people in my entire life, so 4 people in 30 years. That's not a whole lot of people. But I have fed off people. It was consensual, and it usually it was a very erotic thing. It was involved in erotic acts, and I'm getting a clicking sound in the back of my headphone.
I'm not sure where that's coming.
I don't either.
I don't hear anything on my end.
It's probably coming from you, Lena. I'll just try and ignore it. Okay. Sorry, my obsessive compulsive disorder picks up things like that. Here. Anyway, yeah. Just trying to get my train of thought again. Sorry, that constant clicking was distracting me. I apologize. So anyway, what was I saying? The clicking's still going on. What? No, I know
you were
that.
saying something about.
No, I know. I just sorry, my brain's exploding from the clicking. I think I should take off my headphones. Okay. Sorry. The clicking is made worse when I wear headphones. Because small sounds are louder in headphones.
Mhm.
Do one of you guys talk so I can see if I can hear you guys at all?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, did you?
There we go.
I mean, I can hear you just fine. So.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I need to take the headphones off. Some of the smaller sounds are getting to me. It happens. It's not your guys' fault at all. I'm ill. Okay. Anyway, no, yeah, as I was saying, so. Yeah, and I'm a part of the vampire community and part of the goth community. I consider myself a goth bird, of course. I almost never mention the fact I'm a vampire because I don't think it really matters. It matters between myself and my lovers because, as most people know, vampires usually only feed off of their lovers to some extent. And even if they're not your number one lover, I mean, there's always a slight hint of eroticism to not all vampiric acts, but to a number of them. And so I usually don't mention it because it's not really a big aspect of my life or anything. It's a very small thing. And yeah, I agree with you. I hope they don't sensationalize this because, what 2 consenting adults do. I mean, yeah, but it's not nice to sensationalize it. So I definitely agree with you.
All right, and speaking of vampires, The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice has been acquired by Universal. The deal gives the studio rights to all existing novels as well as any future novels in the series. The body of work is sizable with 13 books in the main series and a new novel, Prince Lestat, due to hit shelves in October. Also included in the acquisition is a screenplay for Rice's novel Tale of the Body Thief, which was adapted by the author's son, Christopher Rice. Of course, some of Rice's vampire novels have been made into movies already. In 1994, The Interview with the Vampire and the 2002 horror Queen of the Damned was inspired by Anne Rice's books of the same name. Now, one of the producers of the upcoming series of movies is filmmaker Alex Kurtzman. He will reteam with producing partner Roberto Orci. The 2 men have collaborated on many projects together, including the recent movies Star Trek Into Darkness, and Now You and Me. Excuse me, sorry, and Now You See Me. They have also signed on to produce a reboot of The Mummy. Oh, I'm not going to say anything about that. The news about Anne Rice's books is one more indication that the vampire craze is definitely not dead. Vamps are still going strong with TV series like True Blood and a steady stream of films, including Dracula Untold, due out in October. In fact, and recently, World of Darkness. Hello? Did I lose someone? Hello?
Yeah, you lost.
Oh, yeah.
She's back.
Lost Morgan. Okay. All right. And interestingly enough, White Wolf also recently released the 20th anniversary edition last year of Vampire the Masquerade, and I know we were going to mention, our favorite fictional vampire since we were talking about Anne Rice, and mine actually falls into that universe. It is the gangrel anthropologist Beckett, and he is one of my. I mean, a lot of people like Anne Rice, but I'm not as much of a fan of Anne Rice as a lot of people are. I really do like vampires that I view as more realistic. I mean, I view hers as very romanticized, and I don't really like that idea. I feel that if I'm going to read about a creature that drinks blood, I'd rather it be more realistic. And to me, the Vampire the Masquerade series, especially in White Wolf and their novelizations, I like those when you're definitely dealing with creatures that are no longer human. Why do they care about humans? Why do they think about humans? They can't fall in love because their brains don't produce the chemicals to be in love anymore. I mean, to me, that makes sense to me. And that's one of the reasons I love the character of Beckett, because out of all of the canon characters in this series, he's probably the most brutally honest with himself and everyone else without being self-deprecating. And I despise self-loathing vampires. It's like, really? It's like, can we get away from that? I'm not a fan of that. A lot of people I know, they love self-loathing vampires. They love vampires who pine to be human again, and I don't like that. I think it's very... I'm not a fan of that at all. I think it kind of takes away the whole point of the fact that you're reading about a supernatural creature. So I don't care for that at all. So that's why I love the character Beckett. He doesn't pine for his lost humanity. He appreciates humanity. He appreciates the necessity of it, so you don't turn into a crazed, cruel, monster. But I don't really like the, if only I were human again, my life would be perfect, and then you'd be human again, and you'd be finding something else to be depressed and codependent about. So, yeah. The fact that you're a vampire doesn't change the fact that you're someone who has no self-esteem. So that's how I view it. That's one of the reasons I absolutely adore the character of Beckett. And Jack, who's your favorite, by the way? I would really like to hear this, actually. I'm very interested in knowing.
Well, first of all, I have a little comment based on what you said. You talk about how, in your opinion, Anne Rice's vampires don't have that personality, but some of them do. Doesn't Akasha have that personality? And I'm pretty sure, in a way, Lestat has that personality too, doesn't he?
I don't know. I mean, to me, Lestat, I don't care for Lestat. I don't care for Lestat because he's just a vampire that never could get over the fact that Daddy didn't love him. I'm sorry, that's going to piss off so many people, but I have read all of her books, and seriously, that is the thing that always he comes back to, that always rips at him, is his father's abuse of him as a child. And I have a personal belief, if that Lestat just went through some therapy, he would be so much less interesting. I really think he's just an individual who needs to. He is somebody who is suffering from PTSD from abuse as a child, and if he just went and got some therapy, I think he would probably stop being as crazy and flamboyant as he is. So, but once again,
you're right. You're right. But how about Akasha?
Well, but Akasha's the first vampire, and Akasha was a queen who was raised to believe that she was a descendant of a goddess. So I think she's a little different. And remember, part of the reason she went crazy is because, and she did what she did, is because Enki was dead. Because Enki was her lover, and he kept her in line, and he kept her from going completely crazy. When she lost that anchor of humanity, that's when she went crazy. And I mean, I appreciate her as a character in that standpoint, but she's 4,000 years old. And, for her, it took her that long to go that crazy. One of the things I love about World of Darkness is that it doesn't take that long for the fact that you have forever to set in, which I think psychologically is how it would work. After 60 years, you would start to realize, I'm never gonna die. Like, I think that's the thing. I think if I were an immortal vampire like that, I would get bored. I wouldn't have anything to do. I would be like, well, the sun rises in the east.
Now, I have a deep-seated belief that you actually are the reincarnation of a vampire, Lena.
And I love how you like to talk about that weird shit. I love how you like to talk about that weird stuff. Jack is sorry, Morgan is weird. I do love her. She is my best friend. But I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I don't believe in vampires, and we had a discussion about this. You not discussing that to anyone, remember?
I don't remember.
I don't care. Whatever you are about to discuss. First of all, I don't remember it, so I don't. But it is about me, and I would prefer it not be spoken, because I honestly think I was drunk that night. But yeah, so and keep in mind, whatever happened, I was 20. No, I was 23. So I view the fact that I was young and probably wasted at the time. So yeah.
Oh, you don't want me to tell the
story? And I don't believe in vampires. I don't believe in supernatural vampires like that. I don't. And if they are real by some chance in the 9th level of frozen hell, why would they care what I have to say anyway? I'm human. That is how I view vampires.
So would you like that edited out of the show, or would you just like to leave it in?
You can leave it as your choice. That's fine. She is, I know what she's about to talk about. I have no recollection of what she's to talk about, though. I'm fairly sure I was intoxicated when she insists this stuff happened. So yeah. But she knows she's not supposed to bring it up.
Okay. Well,
I love you, Morgan.
I love you too.
If you want to.
But as I said, I don't believe in the supernatural novel being of vampires, and part of that is because vampires, modern day vampires that appear in novels and movies, are of course based in Victorian times and 18th century. The 19th century. We've got things like John Polidori and Bram Stoker and all of that, and you go into that mindset, and if you take them like that, they're just Victorian Christian allegories of the dangers of women's sexuality.
And also dangers of foreigners. Dangers of foreigners too.
Well, yes, and that goes back to the 1600s with the witch's hammer and how they insisted women were more likely to be witches because we can have multiple orgasms and men can't, so that makes us more likely to give in to darker urges and
I disagree that men can have multiple orgasms. I have multiple orgasms.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that this is what the witch's hammer said.
Jack.
I'm saying that this is what the book The Witch's Hammer said. And that was their attitude for why women are more likely to converse with the devil, and of course then it gets twisted in the 1800s with the idea of the vampire, and now it's still even very precedent with look at books like the Anita Blake series, look at books like the Sookie Stackhouse books. You have characters where women start out practically virginal, and then they get introduced to vampires and they become obsessed with sex, and they're just having sex with everyone. So the fact that it's still prevalent in what could be considered feminist writing is ridiculous.
I agree with
Sorry, I went off on a tangent. My apologies.
Yes, you did.
So speaking of the fact that Lena and I have been friends for so long, Lena, who's my favorite vampire?
Oh God, I should know this. Isn't it? It's an Anita Blake vampire, isn't it?
It is.
Isn't it Asher?
It's Jean-Claude.
It's who? Jean-Claude? It is Jean-Claude. Okay, it is Jean-Claude. I know we've had this discussion where you and I have discussed which one. You like Jean-Claude, you and I do, but we like him for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I like him because regardless, actually, I think we might actually like him for the same reason, because what's awesome about him is that he, no matter how nice he comes off, underneath it all, he's still a conniving, inhuman monster.
Yeah, he's a cold, calculating for lack of better words, bitch.
Yes. And that's what makes him so awesome. And it doesn't matter how nice he gets, how good he is at sex, anything. He is evil, and he is a monster, and that's what makes him awesome.
He is constantly working to expand his own power and his own empire.
Yes, and even though he cares about people, he has no issue throwing them under the bus to get his way. And he's so good at playing it off that no one realizes he's doing it until they're screwed over. Even Anita does. That's what's great about him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Jack. We kind of went away from you there.
and with how much of a strong quote unquote character that she is, I feel that he's really the only one that can like knock her on her ass and put her in her place.
He is, and I think that's the whole point of him as a character. Is he's there to remind her of her vulnerability.
So is it my turn to speak?
Yeah, sorry, we got away from you there, hon.
That's okay. Right. So, yeah, to answer your question, which I failed to answer, as for what is my favorite vampire, I would actually feel more comfortable answering on my favorite type of vampire, because, you've described a few different types of vampires, actually, already, and for me, my favorite type of vampire, first of all, the concept that they would pine over not being human is alien to me, because for me, vampires are still human. They are. And as for pining over being dead, for me, vampires aren't dead. They're still alive. They are humans who age more slowly. They're not even immortal in my mind. As I had said during your review of that Vampire Night. Yeah, that Vampire Night thing. Vampires, in my understanding of them, is that they do age, but the more blood they drink, especially young blood that belongs to younger people, they return to their youthful state. But then after a while, they do start to re-age again, and then they have to feed again. And so that is how they are for me. And they are alive. What is they're unable to die. And they are human. They're humans who must feed off of other humans, in my mind. And so that's vampires for me. And so...
So who's your favorite fictional vampire?
So my favorite fictional vampires, I'm polarizing. I have a few. I love Dracula, the fictional Dracula of Bram Stoker. I also love Lestat and Louis. I love them, although they do break some of my definition of vampire, but that's okay. Nothing can be perfect. And I really love the real Elizabeth Bathory and the real Vlad Dracula. I love them a lot.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt you right there. I'm going to interrupt you right there. Because this is something I always have to point out. Elizabeth Bathory and a lot of people. So many people get mad at me for pointing this out to them. I'm not trying to be a member of the Actually squad, but actually, she didn't drink blood and she didn't bathe in it. They've historically proven that was wrong. What happened was the King of Austria. She was a lesbian, first of all, in a Catholic country. And she led a group of learned women to do what at the time was illegal, which was taking plague victims and doing autopsies on them. And this was just something she did because she wanted to learn about it. And the blood thing came up because the King of Austria owed her more money than the country had, and she could have taken the crown for that. And so the story of the blood bathing is completely false. It was created by him, so he would have something against her in court to keep her from taking the crown from his family, because she had a claim to it because she was related to him, and the country owed her more money than the country was worth because of the numerous wars that her family had helped fund. So I love the story of Elizabeth Bathory. But the blood drinking and the blood bathing is it's a legal fabrication. So couldn't have. So her family couldn't have taken the crown. So I don't like to be a member of the actual squad, but that drives me crazy because it is something that they've worked really hard to try to like dispel, and people just don't want to let go of that myth.
I, for one, don't want to
She
let
was
go of that
actually
myth.
a powerful woman. She was intelligent, she was powerful, and she wasn't this youth-obsessed, crazy, vain woman, but she was painted as such because it was easier than the king just taking responsibility and finding a way to pay her back. And, yeah. Sorry, I had to do that. Feel free to cut it out if you want to.
I find it so much more romantic to think of her as that bathing in blood countess that she is painted to be. I would much rather believe that in the way that I don't believe in Elk or the city of Kearns.
You don't believe in elk? Yes, I know they're not elk. But no, and I do agree. It is a beautiful, and it is definitely from a darker standpoint a great dark story, romantic. I mean, it makes for great horror novels, but it's not there is no historical proof that happened. In fact, the historical proof is the opposite. So that's where I'm kind of like, sorry, Jack, I didn't mean to be like, actually, but that is one of those situations where it's like, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just that she's not, she was a great woman. She had this, and she did actually have a legacy of being, openly a lesbian, which was very taboo at the time. She was openly educated. And those things fell back and became demonized, like so many other women in the past. So that's the thing that bothers me the most, because she was a great woman. She was just great for her education and her openness about her sexuality, and that tends to get forgotten. So, sorry.
Oh no, it's perfectly okay to be a part of the Well Actually Brigade, because as I'm pretty sure you know, as anyone who knows me knows, I am the biggest member of the Well Actually Brigade. In fact, no matter who's talking, regardless to whether it's my place or not, if they say something that's wrong, I always interrupt and go, whoa, well actually, and so, you know me, and I always drive the bit home too. So I understand being a part of that brigade. I'm leading the march. That being said, yes, you are right that she never bathed in blood. That's true. I've done a lot of research on her as well. Some of the stuff that you say doesn't match my research.
These are all current academic papers that have been, and I know you do have the, I mean, I suggest going to the JSTOR option, because I know you can do that now. I know your university students, you have access to that. A lot of these are current academic papers that have been published in the past year or two. So I would definitely go and hit JSTOR, and I think anyone who wants to know more about her should hit the JSTOR academic library if you have access to it through your school, because so much, and that's where a lot of the facts about her are. I mean, you have the sensationalized view that Hollywood and everyone throws at her, but the actual facts are locked away in the JSTOR library, and it's kind of depressing because she was actually a very interesting woman.
Yes, I've done a lot of research on her myself, and I'm always open to new research about her. Of course, I love to research. From the research that I have done, so I'm going to tell now what I know of her life, and that is that, so she was married. I'm not saying that she didn't like women.
Yeah, she was a widow. She was married. She was a widow.
She was married. Yes, she was a widow. I'm going to get that. Right. She was married. And she was also, as you point out, a very intelligent and very bold and very good leader as well. And from my understanding, what happened was, so her husband died. And then what her husband's brother wanted to do was, which that's the guy who you said was related to her, what her husband's brother wanted to do was, her husband's brother owned some land. He was a ruler of some land. And then, of course, her husband was a ruler of some land. Well, whenever her husband died, the brother wanted to take his brother's land, thus having way more land and way more subjects. However, Bathory, she told him no, that it was her land now. And so that is land there. And so he wanted the land. And, of course, back then, you'd backstab, betray, and kill family members to, get higher in rank or else to get more land. So what he did was he falsified a claim, paid off some people to lie about her, and falsified a claim that she was beating, some of the women who worked for her and locking them in cages and stabbing them and having their blood rain down upon her. And so he fabricated that stuff. He had her arrested. He had her tried. Obviously paid off the people. She was, then entombed into, bricked up into the castle and lived the remainder of her years in one room of the castle while he had both lands. And so you're absolutely right. She never bathed in blood, and a family member definitely framed her. That's all absolutely true. And she was
what you're saying is 100% true. Yeah.
Yeah, she was very smart, and she was also definitely a great leader. That all I do know of. The lesbian claim, I'm not so sure of. I'm willing to research it, but I've never heard the lesbian claim before. Since she was married now, true, back then they were arranged marriages, I agree. But I would think if she was anything like that,
especially being of the, I mean, she was of the nobility, so her marriage would have been arranged. But
yes.
One of the reason. Because remember, being of the higher class and being a countess and being of the status that she had, the only person who had the right to pass that kind of judgment on her was the king, and and you're right. The brother was involved, and I did forget about that. But the king is actually the reason the king did that is because once again he owed the family so much money, and the brother was willing to excuse it, and she was not. She was demanding some kind of payment. And that's where a lot of the conspiracies came in, is because you're right. She did have the brother-in-law, and she did have, and then the king owing the money, so much money, and the brother being like, I don't care as long as I get what I want from her. And I mean, she was really just backstabbed on all sides, just for money, basically.
So that being said, yes, I realize that she never drank blood, although, as both of you said, I really like that fictional story of her as well, just as I like the fictional story of Dracula. So I love both the real and fictional Dracula and Bathory. I love them to death. I just, I just love them so much. And, but yeah, I really love Louis and Lestat and all of them, and Claudia. That being said, vampires in my mindset are not harmed at all by sunlight, and so so the Anne Rice ones don't fit my definition of vampires perfect.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. I gotta. And hold on. Okay. Sorry, there's a baby out.
I can hear it.
Sorry, I don't want baby all the noise on their show. Let me cut into another part of the house. Okay.
So yeah, it's, it doesn't fit my definition of vampire, because my definition is far more the Victorian vampire, which I know is not necessarily your favorite, but the Victorian vampire is my favorite, and I love them. I also love Carmilla. I just the Victorian ones. I love them so much, and so that's my favorite types of vampires.
Now, I'd like to also mention another type of vampire. There's a teenage book series that's called Blue Bloods. They have a really interesting take on vampirism. They go off of the mythology that the vampires are reincarnations of fallen angels that got cast out of heaven during the war in heaven. I think that's a really interesting take on vampirism.
Well, I mean, like, there's that, and then there's there's the Cheryl and Kenyon series where they go back to an ancient Greek curse from the gods, and they're the descendants, they're the banished descendants of Apollo. I mean, I like when they kind of go that extra route, because I mean, yeah, I don't know if I technically call them vampires then. They're vampires in the sense that they drink blood and all that, but I mean, I think taking that myth and really expanding on it and making it into something even more interesting, I've always liked that. So.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about vampires is since there's sort of a variant of them in almost every culture, there's just so many different varieties in Mystic On. My favorite vampire origin story is from Vampire the Masquerade, and it's the one about Cain. Yeah, that's my favorite. I'm all over the place with
in that.
But I'm going to steer because I'm going to steer us back to the show. I would love to talk about this all night, but I'm not trying to cut you off, Morgan. But we've been talking about vampires for 20 minutes.
I just want to mention one more thing with that. I also really like the Lilith. I really like the Dark Mother, the Lilith version of the vampire mythology and Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes. I combined
Lilith was
those.
The first mage. Yeah. She wasn't a kindred. She was the first person to awaken as a mage. Well,
actually, here's how I work it in my mind, and that is, well, I believe, and this is actually a real belief for me. This isn't even. I'm not even talking fiction because I do believe in vampires. Being one, I would. My belief about vampires is whenever God first made people. Remember, I'm a Christian. When God first made people, I believe that He made man and woman at the same time out of the same material. Of dirt, okay, of earth, and they were equals. He made them equal in every way, and it was Adam and Lilith. And then Adam wanted to dominate over Lilith. Lilith wasn't having it because they were equals, quite understandable. And so Lilith said, "Screw you," and left him. And then God made Eve out of the rib, blah blah blah. And then whenever Cain slew Abel. And then, Cain was cast out with a mark upon him. He married Lilith, and then their children, Enoch and all of them, and so forth, were the original vampires in my mind.
All right, so back to the show.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll read my story if you want.
Okay.
Everyone good?
Yep.
Okay. Have you always wanted to live in a Gothic cathedral? Of course you have. Well, your time is running out. At least on the northwest corner of Evergreen and Damon Avenues in Wicker Park, Chicago, where just one apartment in a Gothic revival-style cathedral is still up for rent. It's a beautiful building. We are very happy to have been able to restore it and bring it back to the way it should look, said Jim Jan, co-owner of Jab Real Estate Inc., a North Center-based firm that owns and manages apartment buildings in several North Side neighborhoods. A sign in front of the 1870s-era church promotes features such as soaring ceilings with stained glass windows, hardwood floors, in-unit washer-dryer, custom kitchens, and parking. Jan and his business partner Frank Campus purchased the former Chicago Missionary Society Church at 1338 North Damon Avenue and a house that sits on the rear lot at 2016 West Evergreen for $1.3 million in April 2013. On Tuesday, Jan said 9 of the 10 loft apartments are rented, with the first tenants scheduled to move in on Friday. I'm hearing some guy in the background.
Sorry, that was my husband.
That's right. With the first tenants scheduled to move in on Friday. A single-family home called the Personage Home, a nod to former clergy quarters, is still available for rent. The 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom home is located behind the church and is being listed for $5,500 per month. Rents inside the former church, which was divided into 10 apartments, range from $1,700 for a 1-bedroom apartment to $4,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. That is the only unit still available for rent, Jan said. After receiving a building permit from the city in January, the church was remodeled by MHB Contracting. Jan's firm also worked with stained glass restoration company to spruce up the church's original stained glass on the front side. Exterior elements of note include an ornamental piece that was installed over windows. The piece is currently a shiny copper color, but will eventually turn into a pale minty green when it oxidizes in a season or two, Jan said. Interior architectural designs, such as 35-foot high ceilings in the second floor apartments and beadboard wood ceilings were among the features that appealed to renters, along with proximity to the nearby park and CTA Damon Blue Line L station. Jan said she also added, it's really a unique property and very different from other apartments. We hope it is an asset to the neighborhood. Would you like to live there?
You know, interestingly enough about this story actually reminds me of something. In Salt Lake City, they had the old primary children's hospital, which was this very old Victorian, almost asylum-looking building with wrought iron gates and everything, and it stood on this mountain looking over the city. And they gutted it and they turned it into condos. And it had a tuberculosis outbreak. I mean, basically, thousands of children died in this place over the years, and people are living there now. So to me, this is kind of in a similar fashion. And, you know, I do like it when they take old religious buildings and turn them into something else. You know, once again, in Salt Lake City, there's a goth club that was originally it was in and Jack, I think, I'm not Jack, excuse me, Morgan, I think you do know what I'm talking about this one, where I think it was the original sanctuary, or what it was, either that or Confetti's. And it was first it was in a Buddhist temple. No, first it was a Mormon church, and then it was the club, and now it's a Buddhist temple. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, it was sanctuary, and it was a historical. It actually has a placard saying that it was a historical Mormon church from one of the first wards that was there, and then they turned it into the nightclub. I don't know if it was anything. A goth nightclub, and then when the liquor laws changed and people stopped going there so much, it was bought by the Buddhist church, who painted the inside yellow of all things, and now it's a Buddhist temple there.
Yeah, and so I kind of like that these buildings, you know, kind of go through these different changes, especially, I mean, there's a lot of amazing beauty and history to them, but it's always interesting to see, you know, their evolution.
And would you like to live in one, Morgan?
I don't want to live in Chicago. I mean, I have family in Chicago, and it is a lovely place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Maybe if it were located somewhere else, but I'd really rather buy an individual family home in the Victorian style rather than a Gothic cathedral.
Well, me personally, I love Chicago. Well, not its crime, but I love its food, and I love its atmosphere. I love a lot of things about Chicago. And I also love Gothic cathedrals, of course, and I would absolutely love to live in a Gothic cathedral. It's a dream of mine. That being said, I can't afford that kind of rent.
Who could?
Well, and you know, well, of course, I mean, well, yeah, and once, I mean, and then of course, Jack knows this. A lot of people would argue the religion of it, but once the church has left the cathedral, doesn't that officially make it unsanctioned?
Yes, it was. I thought I left that in the article, yes, it's no longer.
The church will sanction the actual church in order to make it something that is not as holy, so people can live in it. It's not a religious thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been secularized. But that being said, I mean, it still was a church at one time. I'm not saying that it's an active church, you know.
Well, I think with me, something like that would bring back some I went to Catholic school, and I think something like that would bring back some pretty horrible memories. So.
I have wonderful memories, but you know.
I have nothing but horrible, amusing memories of Catholic school. But we are from different parts of the country and in different dioceses, and that can make all the difference. So.
Yes, different dioceses, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. All right, Morgan?
In sad news, the Alt Festival in Kettering from a few weeks back was canceled. But to make up for it, 2 bands from the festival's Friday lineup performed this Friday. The mighty post-punk sounds of Theater of Hate, supported by Leeds Gothic legend Skeletal Family took to the stage at Bedford Esquires on Friday, August 15th. Kirk Brandon formed Theatre of Hate in 1980 from the ashes of heralded band The Pact. Joining Kirk on vocals were Stan Stammers and Luke Rendell, along with old school friend Steve Guthrie and Canadian-born John Boy Leonard, who revolutionized the band's sound with his haunting sax lines. Supporting the likes of The Clash, Ian Dury, and Sprig Energy led to Theatre of Hate headlining major venues across the UK and abroad. Theatre of Hate imploded in 1982 with Kirk taking Stand Forward to form Spear of Destiny, but the band resurfaced over the years to play some special shows. The band reunited last year as special support when The Damned played at London's Roundhouse in December. Kirk, Stan, John Boy will be joined by current Spear of Destiny band member Adrian Portis from New Model Army and Danny Ferrant from the Buzzcocks to pay homage to the iconic Theatre of Hate sound. The Leeds Pioneers' Skeletal Family is fronted by the haunting vocalist Anne-Marie Hurst.
I want to kind of Joanna, did Jacqueline say she was kind of out throughout the entire news?
Yes, she did. It was on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. Jack.
You want me to reread that just in case?
Well, yes. You could reread it, or else I was going to have her. Well, she needs to do this anyway. She probably needs to log out of the chat and back in because I bet you it's due to the lag.
All right. I'll go ahead and do that. Just 1 second.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because she has more things to say later on in the show. She might as well fix it now.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. Well, and the later it gets, the more her network starts lagging, because they always do maintenance later on in her area, so. Because they make the assumption that people aren't on the internet at night.
Which is silly, but.
Mm-hmm. See, that's an issue. That was an issue with me for the longest time. Morgan, are you there?
She just returned.
Morgan, are you there?
Yeah, she just returned.
Okay.
Now we just have to wait for her to talk.
Greetings and salutations, Darklings.
Okay, reread your part then, honey.
Okay. Let me scroll back up. All right. In sad news, the Alt Festival in Kettering from a few weeks back was cancelled. But to make up for it, 2 bands from the festival's Friday lineup performed this Friday. The mighty post-punk sounds of Theatre of Hate, supported by Leeds goth legends Skeletal Family,
Okay,
took to the stage.
Honey, it's not your connection. I don't think it's your connection because now you're sounding like you've got feedback and you sound like your feedback on yourself. Mm-hmm. So can you do you have your headphones in?
I do.
Okay. Are you on your computer or are you on your tablet?
I'm on my computer. I can't do this on my tablet.
You don't have a Google Hangouts option on your tablet?
No, she doesn't because it's
a Kindle.
It's a Kindle. Okay. That's what I was trying to figure out because I know we have this issue when we game. I'm sorry. It just your sound's starting to double back. So.
All right. So let me try backing up a little bit because I was up close because I figured you guys would hear me better.
Okay.
All right. In sad news, the Alt Festival in Kettering from a few weeks back was canceled. But to make up for it, 2 bands from Friday's lineup performed this Friday. The mighty post-punk sounds of Theatre of Hate, supported by Leeds goth legends Skeletal Family, took to the stage at Bedford Esquires on Friday the 15th of August. Kirk Brandon formed Theatre of Hate in 1980 from the ashes of heralded band The Pact. Joining Kirk on vocals were Stan Stammers and Luke Rendell, along with old school friend Steve Guthrie and Canadian-born John Boy Leonard, who revolutionized the band's sound with his haunting sax. Supporting the likes of The Clash, Ian Dury, and Spiz Energy led to Theatre of Hate's headlining major venues across the UK and abroad. Theatre of Hate imploded in 1982, with Kirk taking Stan forward to form Spear of Destiny, but the band resurfaced over the years to play some special shows. The band reunited last year as special support when the Damned played London's Roundhouse in December. Kirk, Stan, and John Boy will be joined by current Spear of Destiny band member Adrian Portis from New Model Army and Danny Ferrant from the Buzzcocks to pay homage to the iconic Theatre of Hate sound. The lead goth pioneers skeletal family is fronted by the haunting vocalist Anne Murray Hurst.
Sound good. Anyone want to comment on that story?
Not really. I'm not really that familiar with them.
I think although I could comment on, I'm familiar with all the bands that's there. I think it doesn't need to comment. I think it speaks for itself. So let me do the bridge because I got a perfect segue. Ah, yes. And speaking of shows, yeah, I was talking. Ah, yes. And speaking of shows, let's look at what shows are coming up. London After Midnight will be playing Saturday, August 30th in Los Angeles, California at Roxy Theater.
Velvet Acid Christ tour dates. Wednesday, 27 August at Club Muzykinzy, Liverpool, Wrocław, Poland. Friday, 29 of August, Electro Works, London, UK. Saturday, 30 August, Cult Temple, Oberhausen, Germany.
Remind me never to take you to Poland or Germany. Unwoman will be performing on Friday, August the 29th, through Monday, September the 1st, at DragonCon in Atlanta, Georgia.
The Mission will be touring as well, Saturday, August 16th at La Trazienda in Montevideo, Uruguay, Sunday the 17th of August at Vorterex in Teatro Buenos Aires, Argentina, Tuesday the 19th of August in Kilkenny, an Irish pub in Asuncao, Paraguay, Wednesday, August 20th at Koreaco, I'm going to completely butcher this, my apologies, Koreaco Club in Sao Paulo. Caraco, thank you. Caraco. I do not speak Portuguese well. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, Thursday the 21st of August at Teatro Odisseia in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Friday the 22nd of August at the Bolshoi pub in Goiânia, Brazil. And Saturday the 23rd of August at Espaco Cult in Curitiba, Brazil.
Yeah, actually, I am actually half Portuguese on my mother's side. My mother, full-blood Portuguese. So I can speak Portuguese. My grandmother, my mother's mother, my grandmother is still alive. She's in her 90s. My grandmother was actually born on the Azore Islands of Portugal. And so my grandmother actually speaks Portuguese. So I do know Portuguese.
And you were saying never to take me to Germany or Poland, but I'm actually half Polish.
Just the door. You are, and that's what's hilarious. I love how your last name is actually pronounced, because it's actually quite migraine-inducing. Are you done?
If you pronounce my name,
can I record my parts really quick, guys? With the we got the baby.
She's like, she wants your attention.
Can we record my parts really quick, guys? I hate to do it. It's just is it okay?
Yes, of course it's okay.
Thank you.
So we have
this is part of the hiatus. Once I have my own internet connection, we can do this. You know what I mean? So, but
yes,
okay. So let me do the Gothic cuisine part. Let's see, where is it? So
I'm looking for.
Okay, so I'll just do the Gothic cuisine. And we shall drink vampire juice. To concoct this tale, you shall need 2 ounces Finlandia lime vodka, 4 ounces tomato juice.
I'm sorry, I was trying to find my place on it.
You're fine.
I thought you said vampire. I thought you said vampire juice.
Half a teaspoon of fresh horseradish, a splash of steak sauce, and a splash of hot sauce. And for the eyeball ice cube garnish, a radish, a green olive with pimento.
Or a real eye. What? You could get one from a sheep or a cow.
Or just the morgue.
Yeah.
Build the liquid ingredients in a goblet over ice cubes, stir well, and add the seasonings to taste. Garnish with an eyeball by floating it in the drink, skewering it on a cocktail pick, or sticking it with a stirring fork. I prefer a little plastic sword, like the idea of just running it through. Now, to make the eyeball, peel radishes, leaving thin streaks of red skin to represent blood vessels. Using the tip of the vegetable peeler or a small knife, scoop out a small hole in each radish, roughly the size of an olive. Stuff a green olive, pimento side out, in each hole. Place 1 radish eyeball in each section of an empty ice cube tray. Fill the tray with water and freeze overnight.
In the morgue.
Which is where you're going to get that real eye, isn't it?
And now we can all do it, the exquisite. So 1, 2, 3.
Ready, everyone? Oh, ready?
Exquisite!
Exquisite.
Little off there. All right. So
Yes,
I'll run into my fashion. Okay. For tonight's fashion review, I wanted to touch on, and this will be something we expand on later, for chokers, because goths love chokers. We love our chokers. Necklaces are great, but I love me a good choker. I've always been someone who loves chokers. Victorian chokers, we've actually decided, for those of you who think we're ignoring them, they're going to get their own separate one, because Victorian-style chokers have become so popular, and I do love them, and I make them. But I like to, I kind of want to talk about the ones from my youth, kind of between about 1995 to 2002, when, chokers had more of a 1920s style, which, was when I really started discovering the Gothic and becoming a member of the Gothic subculture. So there's really more of a nostalgia attached to them, especially because today I actually went to a used bookstore and they were selling, jewelry. Wasn't just used bookstore.
You're way too far away from the mic.
You sound like you're underwater.
Yeah, she is.
Okay. So we're going to be, and I found this absolutely just amazing, probably choke from probably about 1996. It's very beaded, chandelier, black beads, very much kind of a throwback to the 1920s, and that's really, and I know, you especially, Morgan, I know you love, your tattoo style chokers, especially. I know you go crazy over them.
Yeah, I had this one that was a black tattoo style choker when I was growing up, and I wore it to the point where it was no longer in style when it finally broke. And then I recently saw them coming back in fashion, and I ended up having to search like 5 or 6 different locations before I finally found a place that had them. And I had to drive like halfway across the valley in 10 minutes before the store closed to be able to purchase it on my birthday. And I ended up buying 2 of them, so that way when this one breaks, I can have the other one.
Hold on, guys. I have to adjust something really quick. So I'm going to connect to the Wi-Fi really quick because I'm having, never mind, it's not going to let me. Okay. Sorry, I was having internet issues. Well, and I know, especially, and you and I, we're definitely, 2 different people when it comes to our fashion. You are very, very much, with your Gothic fashion, you're very over-the-top flamboyant. You love to wear fairy wings, and you love to wear everything over the top. And where I'm very much, I prefer my elegant goth. And, So that's the reason I love chokers, because they're so simplistic, but they can be so beautiful. A simple strip of velvet and just a little jewel or silk rose, to me, is just, it's romantic, it's beautiful, it's simple, and it's elegant. And that's the reason I just adore those old-style chokers, especially from the 1920s. Like I said, they get a little more flair from the 1920s because there was a lot more beadwork than in the earlier Victorian-style ones. But, like I said, obviously we will eventually touch on Victorian chokers, but I do really enjoy the 1920 style because they were very simplistic pendants. They were very, and of course you get a lot of, like I said, the velvet and all of that. And the chokers of the Victorian era were much lacier, which once again we'll touch on later. But I love the simplicity of the velvet and the beads and just the simple little teardrop pearl. I just adore the simplicity of the 1920 style ones. And once again, there's a certain amount of nostalgia attached to that because that was so popular when I was in middle school and high school, and those were the ones I started wearing and falling in love with. So, and I still do wear my Victorian stuff, but those 1920 styles, those especially the late 1920 styles that were so popular, those are the ones I absolutely adore.
I have to agree.
Yeah, I love all kinds of chokers. I love the industrial fetish chokers, the S&M chokers, the Victorian chokers, the 1920s, cabaret goth chokers. I love all sorts of chokers. I just think chokers are wonderful on men and women. I think they're just beautiful.
Yes, and I mean they are definitely, and I do especially. Obviously there's a difference between a choker and a collar, but I think that it's always I think that's well, and interestingly, I've noticed the difference between a choker and a collar is whether or not a man's wearing them. And I know you don't identify as a particular gender, Jack, but I do notice that in the Gothic subculture, if a guy's wearing one, it's a collar. If a girl's wearing one, it's a choker. And so it's interesting. It's weird.
For me, choker and collar are interchangeable words. Yeah, for me they're interchangeable. I will call them chokers. I'll call them collars. It's the same thing, regardless of what gender's wearing them. It's the same
unless
thing.
you're dealing with a fetish goth, and then there's a whole other meaning.
Yes.
Yes, I hear Morgan and her little laugh in the background. Okay, can we jump on the entertainment review real quick?
Yeah, though I thought you were going to help Morgan with the album review as well.
I'm going to do that, but let me get mine out of the way real quick, and then we can go on hers.
Sure.
And then we can do that. I just want to get mine done before we do that, so that way, like, in case something happens,
Go ahead, go. Do it.
Okay, so for an entertainment review tonight, we're going to be touching on what my friend Asha likes to call, what it's called Kindred the Embrace, and how she likes to call it, and I agree with her with this, is before Twilight, Aaron Spelling did Kindred the Embrace, which is an Aaron Spelling adaptation of Vampire the Masquerade, and it is as horrible as it sounds. It is absolutely atrocious. I mean, I storytell this game, so when I watch it, I sit there and go, oh, they're having sex, 3 blood points. I do that, and Morgan especially likes to mock me in that because she's the one who told me that. So whenever we have this joke, whenever we go out, I'll say things like, she'll be like, "You gonna hook up?" And I'll look at her and go, "I don't got enough blood points for that." So she and I have a little in-joke about that. But interestingly enough, I'll sit there and go, Ventrus don't have protean. Nosferatu do not have the physical, are not attractive enough to succeed in a dominate role, but it's Aaron Spelling. The storyline is incredibly bland. I mean, instead of them being kindred, they're more like mobsters. Vampires are, they're kindred, and they can feed, if they feed enough, they can go in the daylight, and ghouls are called licks, and it's incredibly, I mean, it's not even well done if you're not paying attention to the book. If you don't even know the game, it's not even well done. So, because the acting is bad, the romantic, the romantic dialogue is incredibly trite. There's an actual episode where they're showing the love interest of the Ventrue prince, and she's supposed to be so pure because once again the virgin horror aspect comes into play with the Toreador Primogen versus the human lover of the prince. Ugh. And she's like a 27-year-old woman, and she sleeps with a teddy bear. Like, that is how pure they try to make her. And it's absolutely atrocious. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever seen this show, Jack?
Well, I think I downloaded it like a year ago or so, but I don't think I've actually gone around to watch. I think I watched one episode of it, and I haven't gone around to watching the rest of the episodes. So I think that tells you a lot right there. Although I would like to say with Tabers, I sleep with stuffed animals, and I'm a 30-year-old man.
But they were doing it to show her purity and her innocence, and I know Morgan and I have actually sat down and watched the series together in the past, and it always makes me laugh.
It's really
they completely ignored the Melkanians. Yes, remember the episode where they had an insane vampire, and it was a gangrel and not a Melk?
It's just painful to watch.
Yes, it really is, and I was kind of upset that they left the Malkavians out, because the Malkavians are such an awesome clan, but in the same vein, I don't think Aaron Spelling could have done them well.
I don't think
so either. It's very much his take on, it's a very dark, it's called the world of darkness, and Aaron Spelling, the creator of Beverly Hills 90210, I mean, ugh. So, for anyone who's ever watched the series, it's a great laugh. Jeff Kober, who plays the Nosferatu Primogen Daedalus, is amazing in it because he is an amazing actor. There's a lot of really good actors who do well with what they have. But the actual series was terrible. So.
And you remember
Tori Spelling's in it?
No, she was not in it. Thank God.
And you were mentioning the Malkavians, and it's so easy to.
It's so easy to what, honey? You cut out.
It's so easy to create in the what we call in the gaming community teddy bear Malkavians, where they almost become caricatures of themselves. I don't think he could have come up with one that wasn't one.
No, I agree with you. I don't think he could have come up with any insane character that wasn't just someone who sits in a corner and sings lullabies to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do your album review now, honey.
Okay.
Before we get to that, I have one more question regarding Kindred Limb Race. So, based on all of our review of Kindred Limb Race, how many jack-o'-lanterns would you give Kindred Limb Race versus Forever Night?
You know, it's really they're both terrible. They both were created about the same time. They're both kind of caricatures of vampires in their own way. They try to be dark, but they don't always succeed. Kindred, I mean, really, there's something you watch for fun, because it's like watching the Subspecies trilogy, which I do. There's actually 5 of those now that I think about it. It's like it's a show that's so absolutely terrible, it's fun to laugh at. But if you want to view it like that, watch it. It's hilarious. If you're going to try to view it seriously, like you're planning on watching good cinema, no, there's nothing good about it at all.
Well, I can just say this: after your Forever Night review the other month, I've watched Forever Night, and whereas with Kindred the Embrace, I only watched 1 episode, then I called it quits for that night. With Forever Night, I watched 4 episodes in a row before I decided to call it a night. So for me, Forever Night far better than Kindred the Embrace.
I've never seen Forever Night.
I think it's also 3 seasons. Sorry, go ahead.
I've never seen Forever Night, so I mean, I don't really have anything to compare Kindred the Embrace to.
Which is funny.
But I would.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I would probably give it 2 jack-o'-lanterns just because it has moments where it's so bad it's good.
It's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Well, see, which is interesting because I've had the 3 box sets of Forever Night for years. You and I have lived together on and off for on and off over 10 years, and you've never. I've tried to get you to watch it so many times, and you just won't.
It's not bad. It's you have terrible timing when it comes to trying to get me to sit down to do something.
I know. I was interrupting her World of Warcraft. She was fishing.
It's addictive.
Okay, let's do your album review. Come on.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to rush you guys, but baby.
Well, I give Forever Night way more jack-o'-lanterns or bat wings than Kindred the Embrace. Album review.
Yeah, like I said, they're so bad they're good. So.
Okay.
Let's see. So, and now Miss Morgan's going to tell us about The Cure.
The time has come to waken our oral senses with the melodies of the night and the rhythms of the shadows that stir our inner selves to surface as we analyze and inspect an album to bits and pieces. And I here have picked it apart for you so that you don't have to. So without further ado, I'll be talking about Disintegration by The Cure. So, The Cure is... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, The Cure is one of my favorite bands. And I actually really enjoyed listening to this album. My highlights of this album... What?
Wait, is this the one that... I want to say, this is the album you've been obsessed with for the past month, right?
No, I've been listening to a lot of the Smiths lately.
Smiths, that's what you've been listening to. Sorry.
Yeah, I reviewed them last week, and they're really good, and I thought that it would be a good thing to talk about The Cure this week since Jack brought up last week the rivalry between Robert Smith and Morrissey.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to go ahead and talk about my favorite highlights of this album. I really love the song Pictures of You. It's nice and melodic. I love the song Love Song. And Fascination Street is a really great one.
Well, and Disintegration is an album that isn't as well known, if I remember correctly. It's one of their... I guess I view The Cure like this. Everyone knows, Friday I'm in Love.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows.
And everyone also knows Just Like Heaven.
Yes. And I think this is an album and the music... Sorry, go ahead.
And then the other thing I was going to say is everyone knows the Love Song as a 311 song because 311 covered it a few years back.
9-9, no mention of popular band in 311, no mention. I'm cutting that out.
It's a reference because they did do a cover.
I know, and I'd rather... no, yuck.
I don't really think 311's a popular band.
Okay, fine. Well, while we're at, Adele also did a cover of it, and so did Voltaire, and so did a lot of people.
Voltaire did. Jack Off Jill did a cover of it.
Yeah, everyone.
It is a very covered song. It is one of their more well-known songs, and
everyone
loves Love Song. Everyone knows it. Everyone had those moments when they were in middle school and high school that they listened to that song after their crush jumped them and they were going, why? And they all sat there crying and singing a love song. We've all done it. Goth or not,
true.
You've done it.
It's true.
Yes, exactly.
So,
but that one. Wait, which album? But Disintegration. That song's not on this album, right?
It is. It's track 4.
Oh, it is. Oh,
I didn't really.
Okay.
But you said that it's one of their lesser-known albums, and I'd actually like to annotate that a bit and say, The Cure, they're one of those goth bands who are actually popular. At least they were in the 80s. They were insane popular, so they're very well known. And so that being said, when it comes to what albums of The Cure are well known, it depends on what you're talking about. Well known within the Gothic community or well known within the Norm community? Because within the Gothic community, the Disintegration is one of the most well loved, one of the most legendary Goth albums out there, along with the album Pornography.
Exactly, as far as like the Gothic subculture is concerned. But then, of course, you're dealing with, the actual, mainstream. And The Cure was one of those groups like Depeche Mode, where they were new goth and new wave, and they crossed over. And I mean, Morgan and I, we've had so many discussions about new wave music.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love how you sorry, go ahead, sweetheart.
I was going to say, for me, the new wave music is something that is actually fairly new to me. This is new music to me because it was I snubbed my nose out in favor of newer bands when I was younger. And now that I'm a little bit older and a little bit more settled down, it's something that I have the patience to go back and listen to. And as I'm having that patience to go back and listen to it, I'm falling in love, madly, madly in love.
Yeah, because I know you and I remember when we met, you were very goth, but you were very pretentious. And you were very, even though you were goth, you were very, I like Blink-182. I like my punk music. You are still that pretentious gothic bitch.
It's true.
Pardon my
I
language,
had a whole,
but I speak.
I had
Time
I had
in
a whole,
one show.
sorry, I had a whole gothic community listening to punk music and dressing like goths. It was
Yes.
something that most people would have looked at and gone, "What the heck, you posers?"
Mm-hmm. Well, this was San Diego,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
No, this was here in Salt Lake.
Well, Salt Lake's a little different because the Salt Lake community is really the Salt Lake is just all you either have the very extreme Mormons or everyone's counterculture, and it's really Salt Lake City is an interesting place to be a goth. But even Jillian Venters, the gothic, the lady of the manors who does that, even she likes to talk about how her most pretentious and gothic of friends will hit the floor when pop music comes on that they don't like to admit that they like, but they'll dance to it. And the DJs like to play those jokes and play the music they know that the pretentious goths like, but don't like to admit playing. And that is something a good goth DJ will do. They'll throw out the songs and everyone will be like, I don't want to, I'm going to go out and dance. No, it's because I'm drunk. It's because I'm drunk. Like that. And that is a good goth DJ.
I remember one time when I was living in Montreal that whenever it would come time for everyone to leave the bar at like 3 a.m., that the DJ would start playing Britney Spears.
And I remember,
it's interestingly enough. Sorry, go ahead, Jack. Or go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I remember one time here at the Goth Club, everyone rushed out to the dance floor to dance to the Spice Girls.
So everyone loves Thriller. Please complain about pop and R&B, but you play Thriller, everyone's out on the dance floor. I don't care what goth club you're in. Any goth club I've ever been in, Thriller, everyone's out on that dance floor. And it's the last thing. I mean, and it.
And and that song makes me want to stuff cotton in my ears because I feel like my ears are bleeding. But it's because from working at the haunted house for so long, working in the graveyard, and having the dancers come dance to that song every 15 minutes on the 15-minute mark. Every 15 minutes, I just can't listen to that song ever again.
Yes, and see, that's something people don't know about. People might not know about Morgan and I. We met working in a haunted house as actors, and the dancers would actually play that music. It's weird because you have that Thriller song playing and all the dancers dancing to that music, but all of the actors and the dancers love that music, but the actors, we'd be in the back listening to The Cure. We'd be in the back listening to Depeche Mode and all of those goth new wave bands and watching awesome horror movies.
But guys, I think we're going a bit in every direction with this. This track,
we really
this
are.
album,
I know.
Yes. Sorry.
So
go back, Morgan.
So the next topic I was going to cover is the things that this album lacks the most, and I think that this album definitely lacks like the upbeatness that I am currently so enraptured with.
Did you just say The Cure should have more upbeatness?
Well, I'm listening to a lot of. So I've been listening to a lot of the Smiths, and they are a little bit more poppy and upbeat than The Cure, and so that's one of the things that I've been getting into lately. I know, but there are some songs that like I could definitely put this on and like chill out and mellow out after like a long night of doing something else. But this isn't the thing that would get me pumped up to go do anything.
Yeah. It's not going to make you want to get dressed up and go to the club. It's going to make you want to calm down after the club.
Exactly. And then some my frighteningly fun fact about this band is the fact that throughout their whole album history, all of the members of the band have been pretty much interchangeable except Robert Smith. Robert Smith pretty much is The Cure. He's the only member that's been on every album. He's basically the heart and soul of this band.
Yes, he has. And everyone loves Robert. And you know, if, like South Park says, Robert Smith is the greatest musician ever because he stopped. For those of you who don't know this, who maybe are a little younger, in the first couple seasons of South Park, Robert Smith saved the world by defeating Barbra Streisand. You don't. I could have sworn you've seen this episode. I suggest this to any Robert Smith fan because he plays his own voice, and it's hilarious for him to just go, "Barbra Streisand has the triangle, doesn't she?" And they're like, yeah." And for anyone, just watch it. It's great. Watch it. I feel the need to say that.
And what this album reminds me of is basically just chilling out after going to the club with Lena.
Lena, you should know my name. We've been best friends for 12 years.
Yeah, but you know me. I'm always so bad at pronouncing people's names.
So, but yeah, and I could totally see that, like, because I could see that you doing that. We're drunk. You've had your cloves. We're hanging out, and we've been doing our rhythmic strutting all night that we do.
And you've been forcing me to dance, even though I'd rather just sit there and talk.
Or glower at people because you're a pretentious bitch, and just sit and yes, and I will do that with you, and then we will just hang out and kind of like fall into our post-club stupor and eventually fall asleep with our makeup on, which will suck, and then we'll wake up and be like, ugh, breakfast.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, usually this actually I take that back. This isn't just us going home. This is us going and getting cheese fries after the club.
This is probably something we would listen to in the car while we were on our way to go get cheese fries.
Yes. Cheese fries after the goth club is an amazing experience.
And one pancake.
Then you probably spilled a drink on your drinks anyway.
And one pancake.
And one pancake, yes. That is our goth club tradition. And yes, sorry, go ahead.
For those of you who are wondering what the heck I'm talking about, it's kind of an inside joke that I always order one pancake because if I were to order a whole stack of pancakes, it would make me sick. But one pancake is what I want, and I specially request that they make me one pancake.
Well, what we'll do is I'll order a large breakfast. You'll get the cheese fries, and we'll share, and you'll eat the pancake.
That's also something that we've done, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I can very much imagine us, sitting in our booth at the restaurant singing the music from this album.
Yes, definitely. And then my overall opinion of this album is that it's really, really pretty.
I love you. It's just pretty.
It is. It's just really pretty.
It's musical prettiness.
Well, I must say, this album does not remind me of eating pancakes. This is the weirdest album I've ever seen in my life.
Jack, I gotta go. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go.
All right.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
love you.
Sign off?
Oh yeah. Now we're gonna go cry in a corner. Was that good?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, sorry, just really quickly for anyone, if you want to leave this in, I will be taking a 2 to possibly 3 week hiatus while I get my work issues taken care of, so it's great for anyone who's listening to be listening to this. If Jack wants to leave this in, that's his business, but I hope to be back in a few weeks. You guys all have a great time. Or I should say a loafing time.
You've left us with the most cursing and interesting show that we've had in a while. We have lesbians, multiple orgasms, and the word bitch said at least 5 times. For sure, it doesn't curse.
I gotta cut you guys though, because my phone's about to die. I'm gonna talk to you later. Love you both. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Whew. Man, was that crazy.
All right, Jack. Where do we want to go from here?
Living la muerte loca.
What?
I said living the crazy death in, well, living la vida loca, living la muerte loca.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you should finish your Cure review and please stay a little bit more on topic.
I'm sorry. I wasn't really prepared, so that's really about all I have. You want to add stuff to it?
Yes, I will. So,
Okay.
so to rein the insanity of today's episode, I love the album Disintegration by The Cure. As noted, it's one of those legendary Gothic albums. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you haven't heard it and you're listening to this radio show, shame on you. you should hear it. So please do. I promise it will not make you think of pancakes. It's a very, very good, dark, beautiful, romantic. When I think about it, it gives me sad and romantic. It makes me think of my first girlfriend, and makes me think of several other girlfriends, and it's just beautifully sad, romantic, and haunting the way that an album should be. I I rate it very highly. I rate it at least 8.5 jack-o'-lanterns. I rate it, that high. It's a very good album. Highly recommended.
I'd probably give it 7.5 jack-o'-lanterns, just because it is as downbeat as it is, but it's still very pretty. It's just beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay. So before we go on with anything on this stuff, we never finished the band's upcoming tour dates. We still have the band, and we still have my recipe and your recipe, and then we have the travel segment. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Wait a minute, I got a cat in.
So all that we have left is the damned.
That's what I said.
So are you reading that?
Yes, I am. Yes, I just got a cat. Unlike his grandfather, Bastet doesn't know how to open the door.
Oh.
He's too small.
Oh.
Anyway. And the Damned will be performing August 16th at the Forum in London, United Kingdom, August 20th at Debaser Medis in Stockholm, Sweden, August 21st at Pustaverbetsben. Man, never take me to Sweden. Pusterviksbergen in Gothenburg, Sweden. I can say Goth. I know how to pronounce that. August 22nd at Kulturbolaget in Malmö, Sweden. August 23rd at Pumpfest in Pumpahuset in Copenhagen, Denmark, and August 30th at Northam. I got a cat. You just want in. Now you want out? You want in or out? Anyway, August 30th at Northumbria University in Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom.
You know what I've noticed with a lot of these bands? They'll go somewhere really hard to pronounce, and then they'll go to England.
Yeah. This guy is the guy who's trying to get into the door. Little kitten. Little kitten.
All right. So,
okay.
Your recipe?
My recipe.
Okay.
That's music. It makes me so hungry. And so we shall see what is to be served. What recipe is to be served from our ghoulish Gothic griddle in the Gothic cuisine segment. For tonight, we shall have mule steaks. This recipe is wicked for those cold winter nights. Impress your lovely lady or your hungry man-beast with this dish. You will need 2 mule deer venison steaks, or just mule meat. But if you are what you eat, then that will make you an ass. And for the marinade, you shall need 1/4 cup Worcestershire 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 sauce, 2 tablespoons soy sauce, a half a lime juiced, 1 orange juiced, a half a cup red wine, full-bodied with spicy notes is best. You could use the blood from one full body. 1 tablespoon dried minced onion, 1 teaspoon red pepper flakes, 1 teaspoon dry mustard, a half a teaspoon kosher salt, 1 teaspoon thyme, 1 teaspoon ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon dried minced garlic, 1 teaspoon cloves. Oh yes, I love cloves. 1 teaspoon anise, or 1 teaspoon absinthe. 1 teaspoon chopped rosemary, 1 clove of garlic crushed, 3 dashes hot sauce, 2 tablespoons cacao powder. Not cocoa powder, but it can be substituted with mole. Put all the marinated ingredients into a saucepan and let simmer until reduced by half and the liquid is flavorsome. Once the liquid is ready, set aside to cool, like the blood in a corpse. Place the milled deer venison in a dish and pour the cooled liquid over it. Cover like a corpse in the morgue and abandon to marinate overnight. Remove venison from the marinade and cook the steaks for 6 minutes per side. Serve on a plate drenched in the marinade. If you are not a big fan of game meat, feel free to switch it up for beef or lamb. Hey, weren't we supposed to do lamb hearts this week? What happened? Oh yes, you're right. I need to find that recipe.
That sounds to die for. To go with it, we shall have devils on horseback. You shall need 30 pitted prunes.
Oh, that's the devil, I tell you. Oh.
1 cup tawny port. 1 tablespoon granulated sugar. 10 thin slices smoky bacon cut crossways into thirds. 30 toothpicks soaked in water for at least 15 minutes. Heat the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and arrange a rack in the middle.
Oh, I love the rack.
Combine the prunes, port, and sugar in a medium saucepan. Bring to a boil over high heat, stirring until the sugar has dissolved. Reduce the heat to medium-low and simmer, stirring occasionally until the port thickens into a loose syrup about 15 minutes. Let cool slightly for about 10 minutes. Then drain the prunes of excess syrup or reserve syrup for other uses. For example, serve with seared meats or drizzle into a glass of seltzer or champagne.
Mix prunes with those mix prunes with that mule steak. Then it will be the devil in a mule steak.
Line a rimmed baking sheet with aluminum foil. Then set a cooling... Can I read that line over again?
Yes.
Line a rimmed baking sheet with aluminium foil. Then set a cooling rack over the foil.
Yes, the rack is cool, just like bow ties. Bow ties are cool.
Wrap a piece of bacon around each prune and secure with a toothpick. Place the prunes at least an inch apart on the cooling rack. Bake for 7 minutes, then flip the prunes with tongs and continue to bake until crispy. About 7 to 9 minutes more. Transfer to a paper towel-lined plate to drain. Cool slightly before serving.
That was good. So where are we
All
now?
right. So, are we at my travel segment?
Yeah, I'm just sad that Lena cannot comment on your travel segment. I would have liked to have heard her comments.
Yeah.
It's all right
All
though.
right.
The reviewer just wondered where she is.
Do you want to read the intro to it? To see what doorways.
If you want me to, although you should read it.
No, I'll just have you read that one line, and then I'll read the rest of it.
To see what dark doorways we may haunt, we shall now traverse the globe across the Gothic landscape to
San Diego.
dark San Diego.
I miss the goth scene in San Diego. Hell, I miss San Diego and its goth friendliness. Nobody questioned what I wore. They just wanted to stop and take a picture.
Hell, didn't we go there last week?
Yes. Then you mentioned the Whitney something or other, and I'll be talking about the Whaley House.
Ah, was there ghosts there that wail in the night?
We'll see.
Ah.
Anyway, I miss the club that I used to frequent when I lived there about 13 years ago. It is no longer, but that doesn't mean that the goth scene is gone. It is undead and well. In my endeavor to check back with my hometown, I wanted to verify what was still and what was no longer, which led me to find that San Diego's goth scene has its own webpage/forum. Though when I looked at the forum part of it, it was down for maintenance. If you'd like to check that out, it's available at www.gothicsandiego.com.
Was it down for maintenance because someone slashed it?
Maybe. So the first stop on our tour of Gothic San Diego takes us to a coffee shop. It's a Gothic-themed coffee house named for Anne Rice's vampire. It's called Lestat's. There are two locations in San Diego. One is on Park, located at 4496 Park Boulevard. And then the other is located at 3343 Adams Avenue. The Adams Avenue location boasts a open mic night. You can check their website for that. If you just Google Lestat San Diego, that will come up. And then also they have musical lineups scheduled at that location because they have an amazing performance space. The next stop on our Gothic San Diego tour takes us to Underworld, which is held the third Saturday.
I used to go to a club called Underworld. I used to go to a club called Underworld, but it was in Houston, Texas. Must be a very common name for goth clubs.
I think so. But this one is held the third Saturday of every month. It's located at the Rock Bar in La Mesa at 775 University Avenue. Doors open at 8:30 p.m. and it goes until 2 a.m. It's free to get in. It's 21 and up with ID. Sorry, you baby bats. This bar is free entry for socializing and hanging out, listening to good industrial, electro, and dark wave music. And their drink specials are $2 cans of PBR, Bush, Rolling Rock, Natty Light, Miller High Life, and those are served all night. The next location is another Gothic-themed night at the Shakedown Bar, located at 3048 Midway Drive in San Diego. The night is called Dark Wave Garden. It's the first and third Thursdays of every month.
You cut out. What's it called?
Dark Wave Garden. Held the first and third Thursdays of every month. Doors open also at 8:30 p.m. and go until 2 a.m. And that one is also free admission, 21 and up with ID. They play death rock, gothic, dark wave, dark 80s with DJs Brian Pollard. There is Ascension, which is the first Saturday of every month, located inside of the Cava Lounge. It's located at 2812 Kettner Boulevard in San Diego. opening at 9 p.m. and going till 2 a.m. There is a $5 cover charge for this one. It is 21 and up again. The Kava Lounge is now serving liquor in addition to their impressive selection of beer, wine, and exotic soju sake drinks. And without further ado, the goth club that I was too young to get into when I was a baby bat, but all of my elder goth friends went to before heading to the now defunct all-ages club that I used to go to, the Bot. It's the second, fourth, and fifth Saturdays of every month. It's located inside Numbers in the gay neighborhood Hillcrest, located at 3811 Park Boulevard.
Wait a minute here. You know what's funny? That club that I used to go to in Houston, called where the goth night was called Underworld. The actual club in Houston that Underworld was held at was called Numbers. It was called Numbers Nightclub. That's weird.
It is. So that one goes from 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. It is $5 to get in, and it is also 21 and up. Hosted by Linda E. and Robin Roth of 91X. Industrial goth and dark wave. DJs Robin Roth, Lady Noir, Disc Droid, Liquid Grey, Tom King, Adam Atom, Drew Harlander, Cinex, with guest DJs and vendors. Industrial, Gothic, and Dark Wave. Then if we take a little drive, we come to the cast of Crazed Imaginations, also known as the Rocky Horror Picture Show that took my Rocky virginity. They show every Friday at the La Paloma Theater, which is a historical theater in Encinitas, which is on the outskirts of San Diego. Showtime is at midnight, but we advise showing up a little early so you can purchase a prop bag and get in line. Street parking is available, as well as the train lots behind the theater and across the street. Tickets are $9, cash only. There is an ATM available at the 7-Eleven or at the Mexican food restaurant across the way.
Man, you have to go to Mexico. Man, you have to go to Mexico.
Also, yeah. Also, every third Saturday of every month, they've expanded to playing at the Kin Cinema in San Diego, starting around midnight. Showtime is at midnight, but we advise showing up a little early, again, so you can purchase your prep bag and get in line. Kin Theater has its own lots behind and across the street, where neighborhood street parking is available. Tickets for that showing are $8.50. Please plan accordingly. So I used to go to the La Paloma Theater showings, and they are, or at least were 13 years ago, my favorite cast of all of the three casts that I've seen of Rocky.
So before you go on with your review, I do want to say I'm going to edit out about 60% of the stuff that you just said. Not the actual places. The places are going to still stay there, but the whole tickets and what types of beer they serve. You know what? If you're in Russia or in Germany listening to this, or even in Arizona listening to this, I don't care. So I'm just going to edit that stuff out because it's not needed. I should have read your article and edited those out myself. My fault, not yours. Okay? I take full blame.
Okay. So you're a day goth? As if there were such a thing. We're traveling with normie
Dagoth. Isn't that the name of a character from Dagoth? Isn't that the name of a character from an H.P. Lovecraft story?
I wouldn't know. Or if you're traveling with your normie friends or family, well, here are a few attractions that you might want to catch while you're in town so that you can see them in the light of day. Without further ado, the Whaley House, mentioned in last week's travel segment, one of my favorite places in San Diego. The Whaley House is located in the historic Old Town District of San Diego, located at 2476 San Diego Avenue. It is a classic example of mid-19th century Greek Revival architecture, formerly dedicated as a historic house museum on May 25, 1960. The building started with the construction of a granary that later became the courtroom. The two-story house and store addition was designed by Thomas Whaley himself and constructed in 1857. It was the first two-story brick edifice in San Diego. It was built from the bricks that from bricks made in Thomas Whaley's own brickyard. Whaley boasted, "My new house, when completed, will be the handsomest, most comfortable, and convenient place in town or within 150 miles of here." The Whaley House complex consists of the Whaley House Museum, a not-to-be-missed experience that will be enjoyed by persons of all ages, from the historic Vernet House, which houses the Whaley House Museum shop. This 1870s French mansard was moved to its current location next to the Whaley House to save it from demolition in 1965. The museum shop features Whaley House souvenirs, T-shirts, and an eclectic assortment of gifts and art that will appeal to everyone, and a large selection of books on San Diego history, architecture, art, and the paranormal. Two false front store buildings, of which there are only two others that exist in the city of San Diego, that were moved from downtown San Diego to the Whaley House complex in 1964, also to save them from demolition. The two Whaley House complex currently house the New Orleans Creole Cafe. The cafe offers indoor and outdoor patio dining. Our replica 19th century rustic gazebo seating is a perfect place to relax after a hearty meal or walk through Old Town State Park. The historic Derby Pendleton House. This 1850 wood frame and adobe structure is named for its two best-known residents, humorist George Horatio Derby, better known by his pen names Squib Bob and John Phoenix, and San Diego County Clerk and Recorder George Allen Pendleton. The building was moved out of the path of I-5 to its current location in 1862. Although it is not open to the public, it provides a classic backdrop to the Whaley House grounds. I lost my place again.
In addition to being
the Whaley House family home, it housed a granary, the county courthouse, the San Diego's first commercial theater, various businesses including Thomas Whaley's own general store, a ballroom, a billiard hall, school, and polling place. Significant events such as the seizure of the court documents and records in 1871, the suicide of Violet Whaley in 1885 profoundly affected Thomas and Anna Whaley. These events, as well as hangings which occurred at the property before the house was constructed, have suffused the Whaley House with an air of mystery and added to its reputation as something more than just California's state history landmark, number 65. The earliest documented ghost at the Whaley House is Yankee Jim. James, a.k.a. Santiago Robinson, was convicted of attempted grand larceny in San Diego in 1852 and hanged in the gallows off the back of a wagon on the site where the house now stands. The local newspaper reported that he kept his feet in the wagon as long as possible, but was finally pulled off. He swung back and forth like a pendulum until he strangled to death. Although Thomas Whaley has been a specter at the execution, although Thomas Whaley had been a specter at the execution, he did a home for his family. According to the San Diego Union,
he did.
He did what?
He did not.
He did not let it dissuade him from. What? Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. Although Thomas Whaley had been a spectator at the execution, he did not let it dissuade him from buying the property. A few years later, and building a home for his family there. According to the San Diego Union, soon after the couple and their children moved in, heavy steps were moving in the house. Whaley described them as sounding as though they were made by the boots of a large man. Finally, he came to the conclusion that these unexplained footfalls were made by Yankee Jim Robinson. Another source states that Lillian Whaley, the Whaley's youngest daughter, who lived in the house until 1953, had been convinced that the ghost of Yankee Jim haunted the old house. A visitor to the museum in 1862 mentioned the ghost had driven her family from their visit there more than 60 years later. Her mother was unnerved by the phantom.
You cut again. The ghost had driven.
Okay. The ghost had driven her family from their visit there more than 60 years earlier. Her mother was unnerved by the phantom walking noise and the strange way the windows unlatched and flew up. Many visitors to the house have reported encountering Thomas Whaley himself. The late June Redding, former curator of the museum, said, "We had a little girl, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, who waved to a man she said was standing in the parlor. Couldn't see him, but often children's sensitivity is greater than an adult's. However, many adults have reported seeing the apparition of Mr. Whaley, usually on the upper landing. One said he was clad in a frock coat and pantaloons. The face turned away from her so she could not make it out, suddenly faded away." The specter of Anna Whaley has also been reported, usually in the downstairs rooms or in the garden. She is said to have looked filmy white. It looked like an apparition of some kind, but when a light was flipped on, there was nothing there but a portrait of Anna Whaley, the long-dead mistress of the house. Other visitors have described seeing or sensing the presence of a woman in the courtroom. "I see a small figure of a woman," said one visitor, "who has a swarthy complexion. She's wearing a long, full skirt reaching to the floor. The skirt appears to be calico or gingham, all print. She has a kind of cap on her head, dark eyes, and wearing gold hoops in her pierced ears. She seems to stay in this room, lives here, I gather. None of the Whaleys fit this description, but the house was rented out to numerous tenants upstairs. Perhaps
You're kind of you're kind of really bad. Leave and then come back in. You're kind of bad.
Okay. All right, where was I?
You were at the skirt appears to be a calico or gingham small print.
Okay. She had a kind of cap on her head.
Well, you need to actually say that line I said too, because that's where you start to the point where I can't make a show out of that. You know what I mean?
All right. She is wearing a long skirt reaching to the floor. The skirt appears to be a calico or gingham small print. She has a kind of cap on her head, dark hair and eyes, and is wearing gold hoops and pierced ears. She seems to stay in the...
Remember to get a little back from your microphone.
I am a little back from my microphone.
Okay, I'm just because you're still breaking up real bad.
I'm sorry. I'm hearing myself feedback pretty bad, actually.
Okay, well let me plug in my headphones then, and we'll see if that can make it better. Okay.
Okay.
I understand. As you know, I have those issues too. If I hear myself with feedback or any kind of feedback, I can't think or talk either. So I understand. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I just lost my place. Okay, there it is. All right. No, I lost it again. Okay. The skirt appears to be a calico or gingham small print. She has a kind of cap on her head, dark hair, and eyes. She is wearing gold hoops in her pierced ears. She seems to stay in this room, lives here, I gather. None of the Whaleys fit this description, but the house was rented out to numerous tenants over the years. Perhaps this mysterious woman in the courtroom was one of these. Another presence reported by visitors and docents is that of a young girl who is usually found in the dining room. Psychic Sybil Leek encountered this spirit during a visit in the 1960s. It was a long-haired girl, said Sybil. She was very quick, in a longish dress. She went to the table in this room, and I went to the chair. The urban legend has it that this is the ghost of a playmate of the Whaley children who accidentally broke her neck on a low-hanging clothesline in the backyard, whose name was either Annabelle or Carrie Washburn. There are no historic records of any child dying in this way in the Whaley house, nor is there record of any family named Washburn residing in San Diego at the time. It is believed that the legend was started by a one-time employee of the Whaley house in effort to add to the house's mystique. Even animals aren't left out of the singular occurrences. A parapsychologist reported he saw a dog, a fox-like terrier, that ran down the hall with ears flapping into the dining room. The dog, he said, was an apparition. When they lived in the house, the Whaleys owned a terrier named Dolly Varden. The Whaley house stands silently watching over San Diego Avenue as it has done for a century and a half. Everyday visitors come from around the world to tour the historic museum. It contains so much history within its walls that even non-believers will enjoy the tour. For believers and skeptics alike, the house draws them back time and time again in search of those elusive ghosts. Now, as a youth, I remember being...
Before you continue, the past 3 paragraphs that you've done, although we can hear them, your reading of them is absolutely terrible. It's very monotone. Why are you like this? Could you please add some life to it, please?
All right. Where do you want me to pick up?
You can pick up at the as youth. I just want to let you know the past few paragraphs have been terrible. So
okay.
Yeah.
As a youth, I remember being too scared to initially go in with my class on the field trip, but after sitting in the entryway on a bench they had there, I felt a sense of calm and peace, and then decided to go through. And when I did, I had a lot of the same experiences that were before mentioned, and it ended up being one of my favorite memories as an adult looking back on my childhood. Another place that you might want to visit during the day is a place that my father and I like to take our out-of-town guests when I was living there. It's called the Mount Soledad Cross. The Mount Soledad Cross is a prominent landmark located at the top of Mount Soledad in La Jolla, the La Jolla neighborhood of San Diego. It is a 29-foot tall cross made of recessed concrete in the Latin style. I guess there's been some controversy pertaining to the cross as it is illegal to display a religious symbol, such as a Christian cross, on public land, and it demonstrates a preference towards a specific religion, and thus violates the separation of church and state as they interpret the First Amendment of the Constitution and the preference clause of the California Constitution. And it currently awaits more information about what will be done in the matter via the courts. It is a great spot to visit as it looks out over all of San Diego and has an amazing view. For those a little more historically minded, though, it has been transformed into a Korean War memorial in 1998. Another place worth mentioning is Balboa Park. Balboa Park is a 1,200-acre urban cultural park in San Diego, California. It in addition to open space areas, natural vegetation zones, green belts, gardens, and walking paths, it contains so many museums, several theaters, and the world-famous San Diego Zoo. Since it is so vast, I'm just going to mention my favorite highlights, which are the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center, the San Diego Museum of Art, the Old Globe Theater, which is a replica of the Shakespearean Theater and still puts on plays. There's the Balboa Park Carousel, the Spreckles Organ Pavilion, the Balboa Park Miniature Railroad, which holds special significance to me because my great-grandfather actually died laying the track for it, and then the Botanical Building with an amazing pond out front. San Diego is my home. Everywhere else is just where I happen to be.
Beautiful. I've been interested in San Diego for quite a while as well. I've never had the chance to go there and visit. I have several friends who are from there, and it seems like a very, very nice, haunting, dark, chilly place that I would love to go and see one day. And Lena, what do you have to say about San Diego? Oh, Sleeping Beauty fell asleep again, I see.
She would probably say something about the fact that she's sick of hearing me talk about it as I wax poetic about the subject.
No comment from me. No. Okay.
Anything else?
Yes, but I'm waiting for whoever's kicking something to stop kicking. It's on your end.
Sweetie, stop that. Sweetie, you're picking up on microphone. Sorry. All right. So what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was going to do the show closer, but I couldn't say you've just been listening to my show when we had this in the background. You know what I mean?
Maybe it was the ghost. Maybe it was the ghosts of the Whaley House.
No, I was like, if you don't stop it, I'll go to Salt Lake City and kick you, Matt. That's okay. Anyway, you've just listened to The Mourning Show.
Farewell, Darklings.
We're signing off. That was good. Okay, so let me check and see before you actually go if there's anything else that we need to actually do. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've covered it all. Man, for a show where cursing is not allowed, tonight sure was pushing it.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't just... It was mostly someone else calling you it.
Maybe you can, like, bleep it or something.
No, I'll leave it in. It's okay. And multiple orgasms and and all that other weird stuff that we spoke about tonight.
Yeah.
Quite a night. Guys, this show's supposed to be child friendly. What the hell happened?
I had an idea for a segment that we could do, and you can veto it if you want to.
Well, wait, we're still on the air. Maybe you should wait till we're off there before you tell me what number we say. We're on the air because we're still on the air because I'm reviewing to see if there's anything else that we need to record before we go off the air.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I'll be to you in a moment.
Okay.
Okay. So you two people, we're signing off. Long, interesting show. I promise you, none of us were intoxicated. At least I wasn't.
I wasn't either, unless you can't sleep deprivation.
Yeah. Well, I just started to get wacky because it was just so silly. I couldn't help but lose my mind. Anyway, so bye-bye, you two.